Welcome to Streams of Income with self-help author Ryan Rieger. For the next hour, you'll hear proven methods for how to live the multiple income streams dream. Ryan is passionate about helping others discover their gifts and start their own business. He's published 5 books, and his courses and group coaching programs have changed the lives of thousands of students all over the world. Ryan's books include Private Label, The Easy Way, Finding Your Grace Place, and his latest, Streams of Income. And now, here's your host, Ryan Rieger.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Streams of Income radio show. I'm your host, Ryan Rieger, and today we are chatting with my old friend, Ben Hardman. Now, he's not really old. He's my age, but we connected many years ago in Anderson, Indiana, and playing basketball, and now reconnected because of Facebook. And he was posting some really cool post about some things he's involved in with kingdom and business and church, and he's a pastor in Georgia. And I knew I'd want to have him on the podcast, so we reconnected just a couple of months ago. And today we talked about, how to find out what you're called for, how to find out what lights you up, things like how to discover who you are, and the things that God has put into your heart, how to take those and turn them into what they're supposed to be. So we had an awesome discussion about occupation, about a scripture in Ephesians, how to find out, is an idea viable, how to find your first few customers. He talks about how he was in his youth ministry as a youth pastor, how he learned to be an entrepreneur there. And so it was just an awesome conversation. You're going to love it. And here is my interview with Ben. Ben, welcome to Streams of Income, man. Thanks so much for doing this.
Hey, Ryan. Hey, thanks for having me.
It's so fun getting to know you again. Like, I feel like, so for those of you that don't know, Ben and I were friends years ago, 20 years ago. Back in
We're
Anderson,
old
Indiana.
now, man. It was back. Yeah.
You were the basketball king. You and my buddy Mo Jackson battled it out on the court, and I kind of just sat in the back and shot threes. And so I remember you were just way more athletic than me, and Mo.
Not anymore, buddy. It's all gone now. I can't play at all now. My knees and ankles, there's nothing left, man.
Gosh. Wow. Well, you have a cool, interesting story, and you were posting some stuff on Facebook recently that totally just caught my attention, and it sounded exactly like some of the things that I'm working on and some of the things the Lord's placed on my heart. And so, but first, let's talk about your story. So, like, maybe start from, after you left, what were you doing? Like, maybe from the time that we met on, you don't have to go deep, but I know you've been a pastor, and you are a pastor, and now you're doing this Kingdom Dreams Initiative stuff. So just walk us through your story.
Yeah, so I've been a pastor for 27 years. In that time, worked in kind of all kinds of different pastoral contexts. So I served in the third largest church in the United States for 12 years on the leadership team. I planted a church in the fourth poorest zip code in the United States, which was all college students and urban poor. We kind of did missional communities there. I now pastor a church in Marietta, Georgia, kind of right outside of Atlanta, with the Grace family of churches. And one of the things that I have always kind of connected with is just being super entrepreneurial, super apostolic. I love to start things. So I'm just a starter. I kind of live in kind of the future of, this is who we could be 5 years from now. And so a lot of what I learned about entrepreneurship, I learned in the church, being a youth pastor. And, you're like, that was what I was doing in Anderson when you and I knew each other, of like, here you go, there's no kids, and you got a budget, and you got to figure out how do you get kids to come, and how do you connect with them, and you're running events, and you're managing a budget, and all of those kinds of things. And so in my journey, I've started a number of different kind of coaching ministries where I've done coaching and training for pastors. And then about 2 years ago, we were beta testing a bunch of stuff kind of in the Grace family around entrepreneurship, and just the idea of, there's a good work that's been prepared in advance for everyone, right? So that Ephesians passage, and that good work is translated like occupation, right? So as followers of Christ, we believe that there is a kingdom occupation that is assigned to us. And everything we need for that has already been deposited in us from our creation. So
Yes.
God, in the beginning of time, knew who we were like. When we were 20, Ryan, he knew what we would be doing now, right?
Yes,
There was
that's
like
right.
this picture of, this is what I'm going to put in them, because I want what I've put in them to produce good. I want to bless them to be a blessing. And so I want what I put in them to produce a result. So we
Yes.
believe that every follower of Jesus has a kingdom dream. There's a kingdom
Yes.
assignment that's been placed inside of you. And for some people, that means like, I'm going to go launch a nonprofit that's going to bring social or justice or change for the community. For some people, it means I'm going to start a ministry or a micro church or a missional community. For some people, it means I'm going to start a business, right? I'm going to start a business, and I'm going to pay for some employees to send their kids to college, and I'm going to bring good into the world by bringing a product into the world that people don't have and people need.
Yeah.
And so we started just kind of experimenting with this in the Grace family of just like running some accelerators, incubators around business and nonprofit, and kind of stumbled into like, I think we've got something here.
Awesome.
So we were chosen by a venture project as one of the top 25 ideas that can transform the church over the next 25 years. They gave us some funding, and about a year and a half ago, we went public with Kingdom Dreams Initiative. And we run about 3 to 4 incubators, accelerators a year for people that want to launch their kingdom dream. Sorry, that was a lot.
Goodness. No, that's awesome. So many places to dig in. Wow, the occupation thing is interesting. Do you feel like it's Dan Miller in his book 48 Days of the Work You Love talks about this. The word avodah in Hebrew, I may be butchering the pronunciation, but it's work and worship's the same word. And he talks about that, like I may be gifted with administration, but God may not necessarily be calling me to a specific. He said there's a difference between your job and your vocation. Like my application of my administration could be that I am a CEO of a business, or I work at the admin office at Anderson University. Do you feel like, and this is totally just ask, and I'm not even sure the exact answer here, but or what you necessarily going to say, but do you feel like God is specific about, like, Ben, I want you to work at Anderson University and be the admin director, or is it more open? Like, I've gifted you with these gifts, and you can kind of freely choose. I mean, I'm sure there's times when, like, I need you to be at this job for this specific reason because you need to meet this specific person, and there's things like that. I'm sure that happen. But do you feel like God's given us some freedom, and as far as like you've got this gift, kind of use it however. Because it may change from, you may not be in the same job all your life. And so what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I think God trusts us with that stuff. And so I don't think there's like one single, Ben was supposed to be the pastor at Grace Marietta Church in Marietta, Georgia, and anywhere else would be unfaithful. I think there's like so many different opportunities that God deposits in us. He entrusts us. It's really like similar to what God teaches us about money and stewardship, right? There's a stewarding of my gifts and my abilities and my skills and those kinds of things. And we teach people a lot that, like, sometimes your occupation is your ministry, right? And so I'm lucky I'm a pastor where my vocation, my occupation is my ministry. Sometimes your occupation pays for your ministry.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And so sometimes, like, my 9 to 5 is not necessarily like my kingdom dream. It's not the kingdom assignment that I have, but it funds the kingdom assignment. And so it gives me 5 hours on the weekend where I can go to the homeless shelter and serve, or it gives me funding where I can fund refugees from the Ukraine or missionaries in the Muslim world, or all of those kinds of things. And so I think God gives us the opportunity to steward the pieces that he's given us, and allows us to kind of choose and where we go and what we do with it, which is really a beautiful kind of thing.
Yeah. Wow. That's so good. How do you feel like with folks finding out I get emails, so people are saying that, I don't even know what God's called me to do. How would you walk somebody through saying, I've got some things on my heart, but don't even know how to do it, or maybe they're not even exactly sure where they're gifted.
Yeah.
How do you unpack that for folks?
That's one of my favorite things to do. So that's
Okay.
the first part of our accelerator incubators. Is we have a 4-part process,
Yeah.
and it's discover, design, develop, and deploy is the
If you want to walk through that, let's do it, because I think this is going to help out a bunch of people.
Yeah. So like discovery is the first part of it. And there are a lot of people that jump into our accelerator incubator and they're like, man, I just want to get to my business. I just want to launch the thing. I just want to go. And we have to slow everybody down and say, like, the worst thing that you could do is solve a problem that nobody's having, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or create something that you're not passionate about and willing to persevere for, and something where you don't have a deep love and compassion and empathy for your customer or client. Like, you've got to create something that inside of you is stirring and exciting. And so we walk through a discovery process. We're actually doing one next week.
Okay.
We've got an amazing entrepreneur here in Atlanta that gives us his place on a lake.
Nice.
He's got the boats and the jet skis and all of that stuff that we pull out, which might be a little cold in October, but we're going to pull them out anyway.
We're gonna do it anyway.
And we hang out and we just kind of spend a few days kind of looking at what's your unique calling. We look at the passion. So what's the passion that God has deposited in you? We look at the person. What are the gifts you have? So we do a lot of gift assessments. Some of those are things like Enneagram that Christian folks are familiar with. Some of them is just like Myers-Briggs, DISC. We want to just get a real clear picture of who you are, of what you're passionate about. And then the last circle is the problem. What's the problem that you were placed here to solve? And out of that, we try and develop kind of, what's your 2 words? So when I went through this process, my 2 words was awaken dreams. I think that's what I'm placed here to do. And I think that's when I make my best contribution to the world, or what we would call as like a kingdom contribution, is when I'm helping other people like awaken the thing that's inside of you, that there is something that's been deposited in you. We talk about it as like an excavation process, right? It's already there. And so we're excavating what God has already deposited in you to help you find clarity around that.
Yeah.
So we do that discovery side. Then we move to a design phase. And in the design phase, we really ask everybody, we just want you to do 2 things. We want you to build a prototype, and we want you to talk to clients and customers. So talk to users and build a prototype of some sort. And so we've got everything from nonprofits, like coaching ministries, people that are building like a framework for a coaching, an 8-week session or a video, series, or those kinds of things, to I'm launching a coffee shop, those kinds of things. But you're kind of building out a prototype, talking to users. We do what we call an ideation and design lab, where we take people through a process of, what's your value proposition? It's kind of like building your business model canvas at that time. You're kind of filling in the blanks of those spaces and starting it kind of as a rough draft. What we do as a team is we kind of grade everybody coming out of that. So you get a red light, a yellow light, or a green light in every one of the indicators around your business. And then that gives us a framework on, okay, we really need to work with this person on their story, or we really need to work with them on their value proposition, or their execution, or whatever that thing is. We kind of highlight that, and then we move into a development phase, where we're actually we try and raise some funds, and so we help you kind of raise some funds. Our commitment is everything that you pay to be a part of our program, we're going to help you earn back by the time that you're done with the program.
Awesome.
So we help some people kind of raise the funds to launch their kingdom dream. And then also, like, how do I get my first 5 customers, or my first 5 clients, or how do I get, if it's a church thing, my first 5 congregants? Like, how do we gather the first fruits of this group and start putting that together? And then lastly, we do a big demo day at the end, which is our deployment phase, where we teach people to pitch. We have a generosity network and an investing network, and we have them pitch in front of a group. So November 20th in Atlanta, we've got 10 people coming in from our last our spring incubator. were going to kind of launch and pitch in front of a group and try and raise some funds and get good at telling their stories. And then we kind of release you into the wild to go do your thing. But
that's awesome.
It's such a fun process, man. It's my favorite thing I've ever done. I'm so in love with it right now.
Is there not can we just almost kind of like role playing for a second here? Like, give me an example. Let's walk somebody through. Obviously, people listen to this, they have all kinds of ideas under the sun and interests. But if I think about my normal listener, there's a lot of e-commerce sellers here listening, but they might have ideas for a coaching program or turning something they know into a course or a book or a membership type program. So, walk me through what that discovery, even some of the questions you might ask. So somebody listening to this can actually be thinking about this, each of this step. So what are some of the things you help people? Obviously, you probably go way deep at this retreat that you do, but high level questions that you would ask somebody to help them start to discover what it is, what's the questions that start the excavation process?
Yeah, well, we talk about how our power is found in alignment, right? So it's when who I was made to be connects with the passion and connects with the problem. So Frederick Buechner said, where your deep gladness and the world's hurt meets, that's your calling. That's the place. I just butchered that quote, by the way, but
I've heard
something around those lines.
Yes.
But that when there's a problem in the world and your passion and your power, right? The things that have been placed into you all align. And so that's what we're seeking out is there real alignment in this business? I think a lot of the kind of, I'm just doing this to generate some income. I think those are positive things. I just want to get some fast cash and I want to do that. I just don't know that those have lasting power unless you've got this passion that's wrapped up in the work that you're doing.
Sure.
And so we really want to help people kind of get that alignment around, okay, I'm operating in my area of strength, in my area of passion. It's kind of like, how do I find the flow? Right? How do I find that work that I do that doesn't feel like work? I can get lost in it. I do it for 4 hours and I look up and I think it was a half hour because I'm just having fun. How do you
get on a call with somebody I bet you do, because it sounds like your 2 words could also be my words, awaken dreams. That's one of the things I love to talk to people about. After I get off a call where it wasn't even you have coaching calls and consulting calls where that's your thing. I kind of naturally just do that. I don't really have a program where somebody pays me. I probably should, because I do it all the time anyway for free. But I get off those calls and it's wow, I'm energized. It's not a drain. It's fun. It lights me up to have a conversation with somebody like what you do and help them. The light bulb goes off in their head and oh, I can do that.
Yeah. I've sometimes called myself a spiritual entrepreneur. When I start talking about ideas of something that's going to make a difference in the world or make a difference for the kingdom, I get a literal adrenaline rush. I'll get goosebumps and I just I can just sit around and talk about ideas all the time. And when I hear a great one, or something that oh, wow, that could really make a difference in your town or in your community or in the world at large. I just want to leverage. We're getting older, Ryan. I'm running straight towards 50 right now, and I'm just getting to the point where I just want to leverage all that I have for the second half of my life into let's help make somebody else's dream happen. Let's leverage what we have for the sake of others. And so it's been so fun, man.
Do you feel like when you so I would even use this term? Tell me if you agree with it. You're anointed to do that. And the same, when you get up and preach on Sundays, I bet that there's times when you just know you're in the flow. It's almost not, it's not even you necessarily speaking anymore. The Holy Spirit's speaking through you and you're just going. And it's, does that same thing happen on those types of calls where the ideas just get downloaded into your spirit and then it's a God idea for that person? And then you're anointed to do that.
Yeah, I think, one of the things I had to really learn as a pastor was I understood that the Holy Spirit was present and at work when I was preaching. And so there was a really, this is a holy moment. There's something significant happening here. I've studied all week for this moment. the Holy Spirit of God is going to show up in that moment. And I had like a lot of faith for that, and a lot of and I learned to kind of walk with the Spirit in that and listen to the Spirit. You did all those kinds of things. But I didn't have that same theology when I was like having coffee with somebody from the church. And it took me probably, I'm a slow adapter, but it took me like 15 years in ministry before I started to realize like, oh, wait a minute, like on this phone call right now, God is present and at work.
Yeah.
And when I'm drinking coffee with somebody from the church who's having trouble in their marriage, God is present and at work. And I have this ability to access the Holy Spirit for wisdom and guidance and direction and skills. And all of that is available to us. We have the authority of the Father. The Father loves to work through us and in us. And so all of that's available to us. I think sometimes our theology is like, holy things happen on Sunday, anointed things happen on Sunday, and they happen with the professionals, versus like, no, every day, every moment is anointed, right? God. So we always talk about God is always present and at work.
Yes.
He's always moving and at work. And so the problem is not his lack of presence. It's my lack of awareness of his presence.
So how would you, okay, we're going back to the discovery. So some of the things like what makes you, when you get off of, you do that, you're more energized rather than tired. Like for me, for example, like if I went and, did a house project and did some home improvement type stuff, that is not my zone at all. Like I'm frustrated the whole time. I'm, wanting to cuss. And I'm like, why didn't I pay somebody to do this? That's where a clue for somebody to know, like, that's not your thing. Like I would not survive in a handyman role somewhere.
My wife and I have almost gotten divorces around IKEA furniture. Like I just think that's it's a bad combination. She's like a detailed person, wants to get everything right, and I'm like 7 steps ahead and I haven't read the instructions. And we just fight the whole time. I think it's part of it is discovering kind of what you enjoy and what you're passionate about. But I think it's deeper than that of not just like, what am I having a good time doing, but what makes me come alive, and where do I make my greatest contribution? And so we actually will have every participant in our retreat next week, they'll text 10 friends and just ask them the question, like, what's the thing that I do that you experience through me that you feel like I contribute to the world in a really beautiful way, and that I come alive while I'm doing it. And it's always amazing. Like every time we do this, there's somebody that just starts weeping when they start reading the text that come back, because they're like, I didn't know that I did that, and I didn't know that was significant.
Why is because, and you're probably going to say this, and you totally could say this, is just that when you are in your zone of genius and doing that thing, you don't necessarily know it's special because God gave you that gift. To you, it's normal. It just shouldn't everybody know how to do this? No, they don't. That's what makes you unique. And so I've mentioned this before, and I didn't get this myself, but somebody else said we can't read our own labels. And it's hard for us to know about ourselves what's so special and what's a gift from God. But it's easy for other people to see it because they recognize they don't have that gift.
And they benefit from it. They receive from you. And we do a really bad job sometimes in just being able to interpret our story also. So that's a big part of the discovery process. Is we'll do a timeline, and on the timeline you do your high points and hard times, and you kind of look at your life and just pay attention to, all right, what are the things that God has placed in my story that are significant? What are the things that make me, and what are the things that make me come to life? And what are even the hard times that I've experienced in my life that have shaped me and made me who I am? And just kind of looking at all that material and saying, all right, this was for a purpose, right?
Wow.
There's good in it.
Do you have room for more people at this event next week?
Next week? No, not next week.
Oh man, because I guarantee there's somebody listening like, man, I need to be at that. So I always do this at the end, but right now there's somebody listening that probably needs to hear this. Where can they find more? They just go to Kingdom Dreams Initiative?
KingdomDreamsInitiative.com. And my email is ben@KingdomDreamsInitiative.com. So real simple. We'd love to talk to you. We run our incubators. We've got another incubator starting in January. So our fall one is full, and so there's no space for that. But we're launching another one in January, and I think I know we've got some spots left for that at this point.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Wow. You're getting me excited about this. Like I might want to come. Okay.
Come on.
The design part, you build a prototype and talk to users. So is that is that almost like just talking to your customers before you even have a business quite yet, before you go to all the work of creating the coffee shop? You find out, is there even a need for a coffee shop here? If I started it, would people come? If I created this course, would people buy it? Is that the type of thing?
Yeah, we're working on minimum viable products, and we're kind of asking the questions like, is there a need for this? You know, because if you can't find one customer to give it away to, you're not going to find 10 that will pay for it.
How do you do that you do that at the retreat, this process, the design process?
No, so it's a separate day.
Okay,
so
guys, I thought
we'll do. Yeah.
Okay. Because if you're building a coffee shop, how do they vet that out?
Yeah, so like one of the guys that went through our process, he's an executive at New Balance Shoes.
Okay.
Was feeling like burnt, feeling like, man, if I take that next promotion, I'm going to sacrifice my family on the altar of success. I'm just not willing to do that.
Yeah.
He loves outdoor sports and loves just being outdoors and loves coffee. And so he created a mobile coffee truck that goes to outdoor sporting events all over the state of Georgia, and amazing things. So like when he was prototyping, what he did was he put together like, here's the coffee that I'm going to brew. Here's the stuff that I want to do. And he just went to small events and just set up a little booth and just had conversations like, do you like this coffee? What would, and started just kind of going to those events and asking questions. The goal for us is like, you want to fail fast in that.
Yes,
like, you
absolutely.
want to learn right away. And so you want to experience like, oh, this isn't working. Those kinds of things. My dogs are getting involved.
That's okay.
I'm sorry. My wife just walked in the door. And,
no, all good.
That's Jimmy and Rudy, everyone.
This is part of working from home.
They're obnoxious.
My son will walk into my podcast episodes many times and yell something or whatever. So it's all good.
Oh, sorry. So the idea is just, we want to fail fast. We want to learn quickly.
Yeah.
How do I create something small that tests? Yeah. And so it's that design thinking model of, I'm testing everything. I'm trying to learn from this. And I'm just recognizing, typically for us, like, a lot of times where the entrepreneur starts is not anywhere near where they end.
Yes,
at the end of our
that's
process.
so true.
So the idea morphs and shapes and pivots and turns and becomes something different along the way.
Give me an example of one where, can you think of an example off the top of your head of somebody that came in and was thinking one way, but it was completely different, or at least looked, after going through this discovery and design process, they decided not to open the coffee shop or not to create a course on that topic or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, one that's a little crazy is we had a guy that came through. We've got a lot of churches that go through our process that are looking for secondary income streams.
Yeah.
So I believe, we could go into this in a lot of detail, but there's a financial crisis coming for the church if it's not already here. And churches that are just 100% dependent on tithes are going to be in trouble in the future unless you're a mega, unless you're the Walmart of churches, or what we say in Atlanta, North Point. Like that's if you're not one of those guys, you're gonna have that tension. And so one of the guys came in with the intention of, I'm going to create a secondary income stream for the church. We talked, coffee shop, daycare, all the kinds of co-working space. We've done a lot of those kinds of things, helping people kind of launch those kinds of projects.
Yeah.
And in the process, he just realized, like, I really come to life when I'm working with young married couples. And my favorite thing about my job is like premarital counseling. And so he actually shaped a business where he and his wife do sessions online, and what they do is they have the couple make a cocktail with them, and so they actually make a old fashioned or something like that on the thing, and they teach them how to do that, and then they have conversations over a cocktail like they were sitting at their house having a drink.
Interesting. Okay.
And so it completely shifted from like, we're going to do something to like, we're doing this thing and I'm building this thing. And so that was a really strange pivot, but it's been a fun thing and a fun project that he's working on.
That's so cool. Okay. So anything else about the design phase you think I know we could go deep on every one of these and spend hours and hours, but anything more there?
No, not without getting into the weeds. I think we get into some.
All right. What about development and deployment? What this person that's creating a coffee shop, what's the deployment look like for that, or for your friend, the New Balance guy that created the mobile truck?
Yeah. So development for us is we want to uniquely connect you to the right relationships of who you need to grow, and so we've got a really wonderful entrepreneurial network here in Atlanta. That we can connect people to. So like we're getting ready, our group this week is training for their pitches. And so we've got an expert who trains people to make, pitches with investors that's going to come on and give kind of an overview and then provide individual coaching. So the next 2 weeks will be that expert working with them. One, to give them a framework of like, here's a template of how to build your pitch. Two, to actually coach them. So they're going to deliver their pitch online. And get coaching and feedback from our coaches so that they can show up and do that. So we're looking for that with everybody. So everybody's got a one-on-one coach that they're assigned with.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like Ryan, you may have a coach that's working with you, particularly in marketing or in sales or those kinds of things. And we're trying to connect them to who's the person in our network that they'll get the most value from. So there's always kind of a specific learning path for each person that goes through. So by the time we get through the design phase, we kind of have a developmental plan for each person that's involved in the process. That's where awesome. We're sending them to different spots and different people and connecting them. We just want to be generative with our network even. And so it's been so fun, man. We had some marketing experts come on and do 2 sessions for us, and I was joking with them. I was just like, thanks guys. Like you guys did that for me for like, I sent them like $100 gift card. Like we did this for nothing. And I was like, what would you normally charge for that session? And he was like, you don't even want to know. And he was like, I would have billed you 10 grand for those 2 sessions. And so we're just trying to we've got these, but there's so many people, I think in kind of the faith and business world that so passionately want to see those 2 worlds connect. Yes. And so passionately see the connections of like, man, if the church would understand some of the beauty of the design thinking and startup thinking, like it would accelerate the growth of so many different churches because churches know how to create impact without income. And vice versa. Like most business leaders I work with, they know how to create income. Like making money for them is not that hard. But they struggle like, where's my impact? What am I really doing that matters? And I want to make a dent in the world and I want to do something significant. Church leaders know how to do that. And so when you can bring those guys together, something really beautiful happens.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things you said you wanted to talk about, or you talk about a lot. So feel free to go down that path. Is there anything more specific about that? I wrote down what you learned in what can be learned in the business world to apply to church and vice versa.
Yeah, oh man, when you do a deep dive into human design thinking and you just think about the process of design thinking, it feels so biblical to me. It's like you're looking at the customer, you're looking at the problem, you're trying to solve you're trying to bring good into the world. When you're doing business right, I think business gets a bad rap of like, it's all about profits and it's all about taking advantage of. And I think the small few who do it poorly kind of represent the larger group. But when you're doing business right, you create a product that makes a difference for somebody. Yes. And somebody wants to be your customer because you're making a difference for them. Absolutely. And you're bringing good into the world. And so I talk to so many business leaders and just say like, man, if the only thing that you do is employ 5 people for a decade, and they're able to send their kids to college, and they're able to go on vacations that they couldn't go on before, and they're able to, like, you're bringing so much good into the world. And so for the church to just kind of start by, let's start with the problem. And let's work backwards from the problem. For the church to understand the idea of beta testing, like, pastors are terrible at this. Like, we like come down off Mount Sinai and make decrees. Like, this is what we're doing, right? This is what's happening, rather than like, hey, we're going to try this beneath the surface. We're going to try this kind of on a small scale. We're going to see if there's fruit there. And if there's fruit, we're going to follow the fruit. Like, that's what business leaders do all over the place. So there's so much the church can learn. And then I just, I'm a faith guy. And so I just really believe that Jesus' way is the best way. I think Jesus was the greatest teacher that ever walked the earth. I think he was the greatest prophet that ever walked the earth. I think he was the greatest fisherman that ever walked the earth. I think he was the greatest carpenter that ever walked the earth. If he would have decided to be a baker, he would have made the best cakes. Like, there's just wisdom in Jesus that we can discover that changes the way we see the world and interpret the world. So I don't want to overplay the faith stuff here.
So good. What about for the people that are listening, they're in business. What would you? So you're in front of a bunch of business owners. What would you tell them from the stage about the things that you've learned in the church that can apply to business?
I would say what you're doing matters, and what you're doing is significant, and there is a real calling, like you said earlier, an anointing around business. I would say we have really bad theology around money. And so I think the church has primarily taught either a prosperity gospel or a poverty gospel. One says that I'm righteous because I'm rich, and one says I'm holy because I'm poor. And I think that the gospel paints a very different picture. Like, I am really grateful that there are people in my church who make a lot of money and are generous with that money. Like, I'm really grateful that there are people that have supported me throughout my ministry career because they've done the hard work to do the thing that they were called to do, which is create business and create wealth. The church needs wealth, right? And so I think God oftentimes is helping business leaders get a vision for the idea. I think the big message for me would be, you're not the CEO of your organization. You're the pastor of your organization, and you're there to pastor the people that are with you, and you're there to care for them, to walk with them. I mean, what other job do you have where you walk with people through every stage of grief and pain and hurt, and you get to call out all the good stuff over and over again? Like, that's very pastoral work, is saying, hey, Nancy, when you create these documents, man, you do it better than anybody else. And like, I'm so grateful that we found you, and I'm so thankful, and thanks for blessing me by bringing your gift to this. And, the smallest menial task, like, it brings good into the world. And so this just idea of, like, the work that we do through business is providing human flourishing, and it's good for the world. And if we're solving problems that people are experiencing, we're doing a good thing. So God is with you in your business, and he's working in your business, and he wants to give you authority and power and strength in your business. And so I think there's that kind of mentality of, like, the pastors are the chosen ones who are doing some kind of specific holy work. I would love to recapture that theology of our 9-to-5s are holy. Our 9-to-5s are good. And when I go to work in my business at KDI, it's just as holy as when I walk in the doors of the church.
Amen. Wow, that's awesome. Good stuff. Man, I'm taking lots of notes. What else is on your heart? Anything else on your heart around that topic, or anything else that you want to share?
Oh man, I appreciate you, Ryan. I've just in reconnecting over the past few months, like, you exhibit all the things that I'm talking about, of just like, I'm being generous with what I have. I'm not being withholding. I'm trying to give it away, and I'm trying to bless other people with what I've been blessed with. And so I just encourage your listeners, like Ryan's a good example of someone who's living this out. And so keep leaning into that and keep trying to figure out how do I be generous with what I have? How do I release it to others? How do I empower and equip others to do the thing that they've been called to do? And in the midst of that, I just think good things happen in business and in the kingdom. Good things happen.
Yes.
When you're blessing your customers, they're going to come back. They're going to become raving fans.
That's right.
When you're serving well and you're generous, there's a reciprocity that's created. And people know when it's genuine and when it's fake. People they can read through they have those meters that tell them when it's fake. And when there's real generosity, there is reciprocity connected to it, and good things begin to happen. And so there's something really holy about that whole process that I don't think we should shy away from or be embarrassed by or be afraid of.
So good. So people reach you, kingdomdreamsinitiative.com, and then Ben at kingdomdreamsinitiative.com.
Yep, and would love to chat and talk.
And next retreat is the next one that's open is January.
So the next incubator accelerator. It's a 4-month process. It's $4,000. It's $1,000 a month to be a part of that process, and you get the retreat, all those different components that we talked about.
That's a steal for all that you get for that. Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, yep, awesome. Thanks, Ryan.
Well, thanks so much for being on here, Ben. It was
great. Thank you.
See you next time. Let me know too. If you ever want to come back, you just let me know. You just feel free to say, hey, I got something new I want to talk about.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan.
All right. Thanks.
You've been listening to Streams of Income with self-help author Ryan Rieger. From right here in the Dallas Metroplex, Ryan teaches several entrepreneurial courses and group coaching programs to students all over the world. Be sure to listen next week at the same time for Streams of Income with Ryan Rieger.